Hello there, welcome back to the Sparta campaign Abridged, where last time we rampaged across Iberia, taking out the guys on the east coast, taking out the guys in the middle, and then moving over towards the west coast, where we started taking them out, but now they've come out for this sally against one of my forts. They've got a pretty good balance bar, but we have a fort and their troops are largely terrible, so we can use a morale advantage to make this better than it looks. To start with, we're just going to sit around and let the enemy do their usual thing where they throw all of their units at the fort, and then we'll maneuver around them later. It does mean we're going to take quite a few javelins. The unit guarding the gate is going to be bombarded by just everything, because not only do they have javelin throwing units, but they have regular infantry units who throw javelins as a precursor weapon. So loads of javs are coming in. My solution to this was essentially to just take them on the first unit, and then later, once the fighting really gets started, try to pull that first unit out and replace them. So we lost more than half of our initial unit. We don't want to have them fighting on the front lines where their low morale might come into play. Instead, another unit takes up the slack, and now we just wait. You can see I'm already preparing our cav on both flanks to get up to no good. We want to wait until everything's committed before we really make any big maneuvers. And here we are. Once the time is right, we move on in and sweep across the back of their formation, taking out all of the skirmishers. So that will take some of the pressure off the stuff going on inside the fort. There was actually a spear unit out around here, so I had to do a bit of dancing to not get my cav into combat with them. But that proves easy enough, because it's a big open space and we're faster, so we can choose to not fight any unit that comes up to us. And we kind of just corral the skirmishers around and try to split them up a little bit, fight them for as long as we can before any enemy reinforcements show up, and then go on to fight another unit. That sort of thing. All together, we're able to take out most of those skirmishers. I also take out a sword unit that's hanging around back here. The spears that were harassing me got distracted trying to get in another entrance of the fort and dying. So that's all fine. And with those swords taken down, we now have complete control of the back of the blob. Plus, I've released some war dogs. This will help out because it stops enemies from fleeing the blob. And this is essentially a siege draw-out. We're going to have to fight this army again immediately after this battle, so we might as well take down as much of it as possible. Now we line up, ready to go. We've got all the time in the world really, because this blob is being employed so inefficiently. They're barely attacking us there at the front. Our hoplite blocks are taking very few casualties. We can last for a long time. Could even try and win on the timer if we really wanted. But we can also do a cav rear attack. And because the enemy are in blob formation, they're super weak against this. The attack technically hits loads of units at the same time, and a few of them do rout, and once we kill them it'll get easier to rout the others, and so on and so on. We get to this point later when everything is routing. I did play the rout phase for a bit, knowing I needed to get some more kills, but I also got bored and quit long before I'd killed everything on the field. So we end up with this result. Over 1,000 kills on those war dogs. They're doing very well. The enemy army is at least half dead right here, or more than half dead. So we're fine, and there are some other side benefits to them having sallied out that will make our counterattack even easier. There was also this random battle over here at Massalia, when the guys I was planning on killing come over to fight a rebellion that started. So that's very kind of them. It also means they're no longer defending their own border. Good move from them. Now back to Arrhaeus. The hidden advantage I mentioned is that my dream of night battling their main army outside of the settlement can now happen, because them coming out and fighting makes them retreat not into the settlement, because the game is annoying like that, and it's going to work to our advantage. Now, speaking of annoying, watch me try to select Arrhaeus to go and take out that one officer over there. For some reason, the spy behind the flag is taking the select instead of the flag itself. So that's inconvenient, a sort of UI glitch that I don't think I've encountered before. Anyway, I eventually work out how to select my units. We're getting good at this game now. We move forwards, kill that first army, then we attack the town, or to resolve what's left of the garrison all on its own. and that's all fine. Our army is looking a bit beaten up after all those auto-resolves, but we're fine now, we don't have to fight again after this. We've completed this province and ended that war. After this, I was going to go to the south, because we're also at war with the Lusitani, but as it turns out, they've been taken down by a rebellion or something. There's now this Lusitani Confederation that I'm able to get good relations with instead down there. So we'll just take that. The Lusitani are now just an army somewhere in the middle that will probably go and die on its own. With that done then, I thought, well, Iberia's pretty secure. The only thing we really need to completely secure our entire empire is to remake my alliance with Carthage, but they don't want to, so fine. We still have okay relations. They don't appear to be planning to attack us, but you never know. So now I go back up to the Massalian province, Narbonensis, where I was going to storm over here and take this settlement after the enemy moved off their border, but they actually have two armies. It's the old classic trick of a one region faction having two stacks of troops due to the way the economy works in this game. So I thought, well, I'll just wait until the main force shows up and then take that place then. We're not in any particular rush at this stage. We've still got some stuff to do over in the east because we're at war with a faction that I think attacked one of my client states or something. And here you can see they have a city right here that is not very well defended, so I'm going in there with my stack of mostly Gaulish spearmen. We've also got another army nearby, and I'm going to use them to block this other road because there was an enemy force just kind of standing around there. Not a very good force, so I thought I'd just block the road and maybe kill them later. Having some issues with recruitment because we don't have enough of the Perioikoi population class, and the okay-ish Gallic spear unit you can recruit here has a unit cap on it, so if I want to use Zenoi I have to make levy units now, which totally suck, so I'm not going to do that. As it turns out, the siege I set up turns into a sally in the second turn. That's fine really, you can see their garrison army is very badly damaged. I think they might have just taken this place or something. So, well, the balance bar looks bad. It's yet another case of the balance bar just being wrong because garrison units are on the field. Here you can see us forming up for battle, and forming up very close to the enemy line, right in front of it. It's because I gave a mass order to run forwards, and I thought the enemy might run forward towards me and the two sides would clash somewhere, but the enemy just stood still, so we awkwardly stopped in front of them, then kept going to get the fight started. It's another case where the reinforcements didn't join the main force before the enemy advanced, so we can try and take down the stuff in front before the stuff behind shows up. Got some cav taking out skirmishers at the back, and soon we'll have more cav attacking everything along the main line. This proves to be a particularly easy situation to exploit because a lot of the units they're attacking with don't have that much morale, so it is plausible that we can just rout them before the other units manage to run over to the battle. And indeed that is what happens. We take out absolutely loads of enemies. We've got war dogs running amongst those routing, so once we have to fight these guys again immediately after this battle, they're going to be pretty weakened. Here you can see we actually fully form up for the second round of battle as the reinforcements arrive. So that first round was very fast. And now, well, we're guaranteed to win. You can see the balance bar now looks real good. It should have been like that from the beginning, really. We've taken about no casualties to get it to this stage. Now we just surround the second group, attack them with more dogs and cav, and with army losses, morale shocks, they're not going to last too long. We also had their captain's unit right here, with its flank turned to my slingers being slung at the entire fight, and they didn't last very long. That's the end of that. So yes, we lost basically nothing in that fight, with not even very good units on our side, so very much lying balance bar. The war dogs getting plenty of kills, once again a great unit to have when the enemy rout. I seem to remember that from back in the Massalia Tales days. War dogs were super overpowered when rear attacking enemies. Anyway, we've got a brief distraction here because a rebellion started in Iberia, so I had to go back with Arius to kill them just in case they eventually took something. And then we jump back to this siege. We just ought to resolve the survivors from that previous battle. And that's that. I'm going to pop out a new faction to be on my side here because I'm not that interested in occupying that province, even though now I've fought at pretty much all the places in the province, so if I had been taking it, we'd almost have the province by now. But that aside, I figured this would be an end to the war and that the Brookie Confederation would stop fighting me. They refuse to be my client state though, so we need to keep going after them. Here I do go out to take out the army that was just standing around. It's in the DeI's territory, meaning we're trespassing here, but I'm beyond caring. If they want to declare war on me, fine, I probably won't fight them because that would be too inconvenient, but we'll just walk on through and see what happens. Before I can attack though, we get this. The Helvetii are attacking the Areti Confederation, so it's my ally attacking my client state, or maybe the other way around, can't remember. We have the not very user-friendly button, enter war on side of ally when we're allied to both sides, so we'll just click the button and see what side it puts us on really. And the Helvetii apparently are now our enemies because they are attacking down into Cisalpina with 2 armies and a bit more. We've got a big garrison here, it's a high-level city, and we can throw out a whole bunch of garrison ballistas as well. I'm going to take the ballistas rather than the scorpions because they shoot bigger things, potentially more useful for attacking ladders, although actually not really because of the classic issue of not being able to actually target siege engines. Well, the idea was there. Because they attacked right away, they only have these 3 ladders and they're all coming in at the same point, so that makes things pretty easy for us. I'm using the ballistas with their flaming shots, but I noticed here it only does a tiny amount of fire damage if you actually hit the ladders, whereas it does a decent amount of regular damage. So you might as well use the regular shot, which is more accurate and shoots faster, I think. But that shot was pretty much the only one we got, the rest just missed because it's not targeting the ladder as mentioned. Same deal for the archers who are trying to arc their shots over the ladders, but they often fail, and that's where fire archers can succeed in this situation. We've got loads of archers lining the wall here, and some amount of their arrows will actually hit the ladders by accident, and it turns out that's enough to burn all 3 of the ladders attacking. So there we go, we've secured the walls. That makes the fight simpler because everything will just come down to the gatehouse now. The enemy have to work out what to do with themselves for a while. We can just loose off the rest of our arrows, and of course the towers are still doing damage. Also, we want to stand here on the wall and just draw out all of the enemy's ammunition from their skirmishers, because they'll shoot very inefficiently when shooting at the wall. A lot of the shots hit the wall itself, so very handy. We've got some time to kill, so I thought I might as well try and snipe their general with one of my ballistas. This didn't work out, but I did get a couple of hits doing this. The reason we have time to kill is now the enemy have to open the gate, and the unit they're using to do it has done the classic thing that I mentioned earlier in this series, I think, where the unit kind of spreads out and only the guys at the very front can attack the gate, so they mostly do nothing. But the AI is going to wait for them to finish setting the gate on fire, meaning there'll now be some delay. We can still kill this unit while it's sitting here and generally just waste the last of our arrows. I think I actually did take out the unit currently attacking the gate, and then another unit came over and did the same thing, but suffice to say, we eventually get to this point in the battle. The gate is on fire, the enemy's reinforcements have all gathered up here, so there's plenty of stuff waiting to come through that gate, and we are still just drawing out all of the enemy's ammunition. You can see it mostly hitting the wall. They can't really see the units they're targeting, but they tend to just throw anyway. Well, now that the gates are open, that's going to be a bit better for them. They can throw through the gate. I, of course, want to immediately get a unit out through the gate and start a fight beneath the towers, like we saw earlier in this series. This, for some reason, proves to be harder than I expected. And we also have the slight issue that because we're charging through with hoplites, who will do nothing more than walk in slow motion even when in running mode, we can't get out there very fast. What I wanted to ideally do is get the whole unit outside beyond the gatehouse line, so that we're definitely not going to let any enemies go and touch the line, which would decap the gatehouse. Instead, we get about halfway through. We can still form phalanx now and delay the enemy for ages, letting the towers fire, but there's a massive flaw with this setup. Because we're not entirely through, and because the enemy can get kind of close to the line, the gatehouse will start shooting out its boiling oil. and that's going to fall directly into the gateway where my hoplite phalanx is. So you can see we start to take some casualties to this. It's not ideal. I'm guessing it kind of triggers if at least one enemy is near enough to potentially get hit by it, and maybe there are some in the corners here who are kind of in the target zone. But it's mainly us. Just another issue then. Seeing this, I decided to not fight in the gate. We're losing the hoplite unit pretty fast in this situation. The downside is that if you pull back, the enemy can set foot over the gate line, which decaps the gatehouse towers. So we can fight in this situation. It's equally safe. It's still impossible for the enemy to push through here. We've got them stuck in the gateway. But the towers will no longer be shooting at the blob behind it once the decap is finished. So we're going to lose out on, I don't know, perhaps 1,000 free kills over the course of the battle from that. Probably better this way than being hit by the oil, so I guess it's an okay trade. I pulled away most of the stuff behind the gates to go sit at a secondary position that would be under a different tower, thinking we can defend there as well if the enemy do push all the way through. In the meantime, we've got some low frames per second cav action. The enemy commander wandered out of the blob, so I thought maybe we can try and do something against him and take him down. He is a phalanx spear unit, so bringing him down with cav could be difficult, but we can rear attack him, of course, because we can make him face one direction with one unit. Sometimes they'll change direction just if you give an attack order once the AI senses you're about to hit them. Other times, you can do it like this, just sort of vaguely make melee contact. They'll turn the unit to be facing what they're fighting, and then we can make a flank attack like this, but with so few frames, I bet our troops can't do anything. Plus, these garrison cav aren't going to be all that good. So while we do attack them, I don't think we kill even a single guy in their unit, and I eventually give up on that. Meanwhile, the main fight in the gatehouse is actually going quite well. We've lost virtually nothing. The enemy have pushed through and are just moshing and glitching all over the place due to there being no space and the collision going into overdrive, which is what's killing the frame rate in general. I came here to check though the stat card things, and you can see that two of the units of hoplites that are in contact with the enemy are just absolutely annihilating them. One unit's already got like 1,000 kills and they've lost about 3 troops in their own unit. So that's much better than hoplites normally do, as we've seen earlier in the campaign. Clearly something's going on with the fact that maybe there are no frames or something. The enemy can't attack us for some reason. Or perhaps we're killing multiple enemies at once using the fact that the hoplites are treated kind of like a pike unit in this mod. Well, I don't know, but the defense of the gatehouse is going weirdly well. So now we just sit here and let it continue, really. We don't want to interrupt. For my part, I decided to take control of a scorpion that's quite far from the fight, but you can see if I shoot up into the sky, we can drop bolts down vaguely where the fight's happening. So with a few trial and error cases, we can eventually get bolts falling into this crowd. Because they're falling from such a high angle, they only hit like 1 or 2 enemies, so it's not really worth it. Annoyingly, the camera flicks around after each shot, so you can't keep the same trajectory like you normally can. But this is ever so slightly more efficient than doing nothing. We're reducing the enemy's numbers with a bit of player input. It's possible that the bolt thrower might fire at will into this blob if I leave them be. They had used a bit of ammo before I selected them. Not quite sure though, I think they can't. Normally the first person mode does shoot further and in a wider arc than the fire at will on siege weapons. So time passes, my cav go around defeating things that rout out of the main blob, and that blob just gets smaller and smaller, somehow being annihilated by the 2 units of hoplites fighting them all. We've lost half of both of those units, but the enemy have lost way more. My cav now make an actual attack. It came over to strike the back of the blob, and they countered by sending out their skirmishers to stop me. Not the best move actually, the skirmishers will struggle against my cav. Although that said, we didn't kill them particularly well since our cav are shock cav. Anyway, we just let the grind continue, and now I've switched to a first person view of a ballista on the secondary wall. We can kind of shoot into the gate, so I thought let's go for it. Place your bet, will this hit my troops? We'll never know. The battle ended at an opportune moment, probably saving a bunch of our own lives there. A shame. But anyway, the battle went really well in conclusion. Those 2 units of hoplites killed something like 4,000 enemies between them, and the tower's probably got another 1,000 kills or something, plus the oil as well will have killed a few. Overall, pretty good. The enemy lost more than half of their gigantic stack of stuff, and what we lost was only garrison units. They'll start regenerating immediately. So basically, this Helvetii attack has been stemmed. We just need to send someone over there to finish them off and probably turn them into a different faction since they betrayed us. Maybe get a faction that doesn't have the treacherous trait. So that's where we'll end this part. This campaign is coming towards a close. I don't actually intend to conquer out and take any more territory at this point, aside from actually that one right there, just so that we finish Narbonensis. I want to kind of secure an empire, and then for the final part of the campaign, just literally declare war on everybody and see what happens. So that will be the final part. What I hope is we'll get some interesting defensive battles and maybe actually lose some territory, things like that. Things that you don't normally see in a Total War campaign, or at least they're interesting for me. We'll see what happens starting next time.